Right. Yes, that's fine. Let me just have a little check. Yes, we're good. Yes, that's absolutely fine.
Okay, fantastic. So let's get it started.
Okay. Thank you, Julia. Hello, everybody. I'm sorry in starting the session, but it looks like we've managed to rejig everything so that we can present some information to you today. So I'm thrilled to be here and have the opportunity to talk to you. My name is Sue Trory, and I work here in Cambridge. And my role, I'm Head of Adult and Higher Education for Cambridge Assessment English. And today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about one of our assessments, which is called Lingua Skill. Going to give you a little bit of an introduction to Lingua Skill, together with my colleague who I work with very closely here in Cambridge, Rona. So before I actually talk directly about Lingua Skill, I think it's important, I guess, for us to just take a little bit of a step back and think a little bit about the context that we're all working in and living in these days. A highly unusual time for the world. But I think one of the things that I think we've realised here in Cambridge is it's also given us a great opportunity to reflect a little bit on the world and the direction that we're taking, and I guess the part that we play in that. And for us here in Cambridge, it's extremely important. One of our mottos is that we help people learn English and prove their skills to the world, and therefore we take our sort of responsibility in that space very, very seriously. Just for your own understanding, Cambridge Assessment English is actually a part of the University of Cambridge. We are actually a department of the University of Cambridge, so we do very much see ourselves as part of the educational landscape of the world. And we've got the advantages of being part of the university is that for us it gives us a huge access to a wealth of expertise. So all of our assessments, as you may already understand, are researched and developed by experts and leaders in their field. And we have an international reach, and we're really known as the international quality standard for assessments in the English language space. And being international is extremely important to us. It's in our sort of DNA, and we make huge efforts to understand the different cultures and different countries that we operate in, and having that diverse reach means that the assessments that we are building are appropriate for those needs of our international audience. And this has enabled us to become widely accepted by governments, education authorities and employers worldwide. So as we face the challenges of today, and I guess COVID, as I say, has particularly drawn our attention to how the world is going to look in the future, I think we at Cambridge are really very much concerned about what our place in the world looks like going forward. And one of the things that we've been really thinking about is how the world is moving very quickly, and perhaps exacerbated by COVID. And here I am today talking to you, for example, on my laptop, is that we're going to be somersaulted forward in terms of our technology advancements. And that's all part of what is being termed the fourth industrial revolution. And that really begs the question as to what skills do we need our young people to have in order to face the challenges of the future. And that's a really important space for us. And we've been looking at those fourth industrial revolution skills. And this image here basically is just a little encapsulation of all of the areas that of the fourth industrial revolution skills that I think we know through various studies that the world is going to need people to have and to develop. And right there, slap bang in the middle of that image, you'll see the word communication. Now, communication, of course, is really where we operate. It's our space. And we also know that language learning enables creative thinking and problem solving and collaboration. It is the process of learning a language, the process of communicating, that enables us to also unlock some of those key fourth industrial revolution skills that we know that our young people are going to need for the future. So English is core to that. We know that, yes, we understand already that English is a lingua franca. There have been vast numbers of studies that will demonstrate that economies that invest in English language teaching and English language learning do actually increase more rapidly. And I think that, you know, in the COVID world, as I'm terming it, our ability to communicate across cultures and understand each other and face the challenges is even more important. And obviously, we need a language in order to do that. And therefore, having and continuing to support English language study for our young people in all of our countries is important, absolutely critical for us and our economies going forward in order to recover from COVID, but also to grow into the future. So we've done several studies in the areas of understanding the English language skills gap in industry. This slide here demonstrates some of the results from our English at Work global analysis of language skills in the workplace, which we did last year and the year before. And essentially what it's saying is that industry, across industries, in fact, and across countries and territories, that English is incredibly important, and that industry recognizes that it's going to need that gap to be filled going forwards. In other words, English is crucial for employability. Industries and commercial companies understand that the better that they have that skill developed within their own workforce, the more they're going to be able to reach globally into different markets, and therefore are very keen to employ people with those skills. So I'm sure that won't come as a surprise to any of you listening. So what can we do about it? Well, oh, sorry, just one more point. So again, this just reiterating the point. We live in an increasingly connected world, and communicating is an important part of that process. People who can communicate are more likely to grow professionally and personally. None of these, I think, are going to come as a surprise to you. So, as I say, what therefore can we do about it? Well, I think one of the important things to think about is that actually the role of testing has an incredibly important part to play in improving that skills gap. It is crucial for us to understand the requirements, first of all, of what we need. In other words, what does that really mean? And at what level do we want our students and young people to get to? And what level of language do employers within their organizations need people to have in order to fulfill some of the jobs that they have within a corporation? In other words, defining requirements is incredibly important. We need to know what we're trying to aim for, okay? And obviously testing and assessment really enables us to understand that. And therefore it helps to build confidence. I think in any learning journey, we all know that we need to know where we are on that journey, yes? How far we've got to go is the first point, but then how far along. And that really helps us to create a sense of achievement, but it also builds confidence because we're able to demonstrate our successes. And for anyone who's learned a language, I myself have learned Spanish, you know, it's a long journey, and learning a language does not happen overnight. And actually that building confidence and creating a sense of achievement in the learners is incredibly important. Finding the time to learn English or to learn anything, but to learn a language particularly is challenging. So we want to make that sense of achievement really evident to the learners to keep the confidence and the motivation going. And it also enables teachers to make their teaching more relevant and more practical. The more data and information that we can give on where our students are on their learning journey, then obviously the better able teachers are able to tailor to the needs of their students. And technology is really allowing us to have a more granular, evidential base to learning. It means that we can actually really demonstrate progress. And we can set goals, goals as teachers, as educators, for our students, but also as an institution, at an institutional level. Okay, so you may be wanting to say, for example, that X percentage of your graduates, for example, achieve certain levels of English, and that evidence-based setting of goals and then demonstrating impact on learning really helps us to understand the value of the teaching that we are giving within any given institution. So at Cambridge, we take all of that extremely seriously. It is really, as I say, central to everything that we do. We are part of the Institute for Automated Language Teaching and Assessment, the Institute of ALTA, it's called. And ALTA is made up of 4 important departments of the university. And as I say, in Cambridge Assessment English is one of those. We also work very closely with the Computer Laboratory, the Department of Engineering, and the Department of Theoretical and Applied Linguistics. So we have the added advantage here is in Cambridge that we have direct access to world-leading thought thinkers and world-leading academics in different areas of expertise, which all go together to create a great language assessment capability. And that ALTA Institute is where those thought leaders come together. And we benefit directly from this expertise in that we're able to feed that expertise and world-leading academic study directly into some of our products and services that we provide. And clearly, I'm here today to talk about Lingua Skill because Lingua Skill is my baby, and along with my team here in Cambridge, and also Broner, fantastic colleagues that work with us as part of those expertise that they bring. And we've been able to take the world-leading technological advances that we're making as part of ALTA and feed that directly into a product such as Lingua Skill. So I'd like to go on and talk to you a little bit about Lingua Skill. As I say, it's my pride and joy together with the team. We are incredibly proud of the advances that we're making with Lingua Skill. And I'd just like to take a little bit of time just to explain the assessment to you, and so that you have an opportunity to fall in love with it as much as I have. So first of all, I guess the first thing to say is that it gives us accurate results and fast results, okay? The accurate English test with fast results. Now, we all live in an incredibly speedy world, okay? And as I said to you, the data gives us the accuracy, but I think speed is also important, right? The demands on us every day are greater, and therefore having something that responds quickly to those challenges that we face at an institutional level is incredibly important. So the test is separated into 4 modules, and it covers all 4 skills. So it's listening, reading, writing, and speaking, and it is actually flexible. So you can take the product as with reading and listening together and writing and speaking separately. So you can choose the modularity that you want to fit your purposes. And that is very important because it doesn't mean that you have to do, for example, speaking. It may not be appropriate for you to want to do that, or maybe it is just appropriate just to do speaking. It depends on the situation and the context that you are in. So we've built in that modularity within the product to facilitate that. There are 2 test options. We offer it in general English format and also business English. The test, the assessment itself, isn't different between those 2 options. The test taking experience, should I say, is not different. It is the language content that is different. In other words, we are using vocabulary and scenarios which are more appropriate for business contexts in the business variant, and general English is, as you would expect, taking context from more general general circumstances. And again, that is so that you can really apply the assessment to your own particular context. Now, it's multi-level. Now, this is important. We talk about multi-level all the time, but just so that we understand the difference between a multi-level test and a tiered test. So it's multi-level, which means that there is only one test. Some of you may be familiar with some of our Cambridge assessment qualifications, and those where you take a qualification at a particular level to get a certificate to prove that particular level. Now, Lingual Skill is different. It's a different proposition because actually everybody sits the same test, and the test will give you what level you are at. Okay, it's a slightly different thing. The advantages of the multi-level test is that an institution can, of course, test the same test across everybody. Yes, everybody sits the same test, and therefore we know that it's a level playing field. It will give everybody a result according to their own individual level, but the testing experience will be the same for everybody in terms of the UX and the user experience of the product. Oh, I should have just said, sorry, I didn't mention that also we have a special, we're able to cater for special needs as well, and that's again very important. In fact, I will mention it, that we've just had a case where we are able to actually run the test, you know, with blind, non-sighted and students, and so we're very happy as part of Cambridge to be able to do that, and we fully support diversity in assessment as well. So again, just to clarify the difference in the propositions that we offer here in Cambridge. So we've got essentially two different product propositions. We've got Cambridge English qualifications, as I just mentioned, whereby you take a certificate at a particular level to gain your certificate, whereas we have two propositions, well, in fact three, with our placement test, whereby you are just sitting one experience and it gives you the level that you are at. And there you'll see Lingual Skill is a multi-level test, and obviously our world-leading, highly recognised and you know, key assessment partnership that we have is Ielts, which operates in a similar way. You just sit Ielts and you get your result. In a similar way, institutions can adopt Lingual Skill and they can run it as one solution for all of their cohort, okay, as opposed to the qualifications where you choose the level that you want as an individual to sit. So you'll notice there that Lingual Skill, it goes up to C1 and it goes all the way down to A1, so it has a very broad capacity. It can test the same test, will render results across a wide spectrum of candidate levels, going from pre-A1 to C1+. So let's think about a little bit about the uses of Lingual Skill at an institutional level. So obviously an institution can take Lingual Skill and use it for admissions. You may want to, for example, set a level, a test at the beginning to understand the level that everybody has when they enter an organization. An institution, and as I said earlier, showing progression is incredibly important. So you may, for example, want to then ask the same students to resit Lingual Skill mid-course and to show their progression, or at the end of a certain year across a number of years, and that really helps with motivation. It goes back to my point about enabling students to understand where they are on their learning journey, but also motivating them to keep going. And as I'm sure, you know, having been a teacher myself, I totally understand the need to keep those young people motivated and progressing. Course placement, again, it can really help to place people in cohorts, in groups of learning. And as I said before, end of course test is also a typical use case for us. So some institutions choose to use it for graduation. So in other words, they may wish to have each of their students graduating with a certain level. And it goes back to what I just said about an institution being able to say that X percentage of their graduates graduate with this level of English. Well, if you want to prove that as an institution, then obviously embedding Lingua Skill in your ways of working would allow you to actually demonstrate that scientifically, with data, as opposed to it just being a sort of marketing message. I think there is real profundity in our ability to be able to actually say with confidence that students are graduating with a certain level of English, and therefore signalling that an institution is indeed preparing students for the world of work and employability. Some institutions choose to use Lingua Skill to select students for scholarships or for special courses. So they would have a special selection process whereby students would take Lingua Skill in order to gain special bursaries or scholarships. And very often also it is used by institutions to enable teachers themselves to be able to keep themselves on their learning journey in order to maintain the level of language that they need in order to teach as teachers and as part of professional development. Again, that is a very, very important. Let's not forget, we're all learners, right? We're all learning every day, even if we're teaching, not just the students. So in the world of work, which is also used, so we also have many businesses and corporations that use Lingual Skill, and they use it as part of their recruitment policy. So they may, for example, just to give you an example, I was just about to use the example of an airline, and I will continue to use the example of an airline, but I appreciate that airlines are under increasing pressure these days. But nonetheless, we do work a lot with airlines where they know that they have to have ground staff plane staff and airport staff have to be able to have good levels of English, and therefore they often embed Lingual Skill as part of their recruitment policy in order to understand that the people that they are recruiting into those roles have the right level of English. And it's also used for promoting. So, for example, if an organisation has a scheme whereby they have to have achieved certain levels of English in order to secure a promotion to a different level, then Lingual Skill would be the tool that they would embed in that organisation in order to prove that. Language audits and benchmarking, that's really important for some organisations, some large corporations, whereby we help them to understand what level of English using the CFR they should be asking for in order for certain grades or roles within their organisation to be effective. So in that way, Cambridge also operates as a sort of consultancy whereby we can help them, enable them to understand how to gauge their own needs within their organisation. And Lingual Skill is used, therefore, as a benchmarking tool for organisations as well. So I think I am going to pass over now, I do believe, to my colleague Rona Broner. Let me just introduce Rona for you. So Rona Broner is an esteemed colleague of mine in Cambridge, and really is part of the fantastic team that develop what I call the beating heart of Lingual Skill, which is the content and the assessment. So over to you, Rona.
Hi, Sue. Thank you, Sue. Ooh, can you silence Sue, because I've got a bit of an echo?
Yes, I'm just trying to work out how to do that. Just, I will just, sorry,
It's in the middle of your picture.
In the middle of my picture. Just give me 2 seconds. I'm not used to the UX of this. There we go. Right.
Thanks, Sue. Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, I should say. Yes, my name's Rona Rolfe. I'm the assessment lead, leading up a group of assessment specialists who have created the test and the contents of Lingua Skill. And we work very closely with our colleagues as well in our research and thought leadership team to create the construct of the test and then create the materials and make sure that the test and the contents are testing what they say they're testing. So just to talk you through a bit about Lingua Skill. First of all, this is a basis of all our tests at Cambridge English. They are results that you can trust. So before we even launched Lingua Skill, we made sure that so that it was fit for purpose. So to do this, it's been trialled by speakers of over 40 languages in over 50 countries. And the key things that we're always looking for all of our tests to ensure is that they have validity, they have reliability, impact, and practicality. So by validity, what I mean is that we are sure of what we are assessing. So it's validly testing at the different levels of the Cambridge European Framework, sorry, the Council of European Framework, and that it's valid, that it tests from A1 to C2, C1 or above. Also, we need to make sure it's reliable. So if you take the test today and somebody else takes it tomorrow, that the test experience they have is consistent, so that it doesn't change from time to time. So it isn't dependent on if you had an examiner, that it's dependent on the examiner that happens to answer it, or that the questions are more easy or more difficult on any particular test-taking experience. How we do that, I shall discuss in a minute. The impact and the practicality, this would have been very nice to feed into what Professor Hisham was going to be talking about, the flipped classroom. So when we have the impact of the test, we want to make sure that the questions that we are asking are meaningful questions. That, for example, in the speaking test, that what the candidates are being asked to speak about is something that in real life somebody could be asked to talk about or write about, for example. We don't want it to be a purely academic focus, we want it to be real life experience. And finally, the last point is that practicality. It's got to be easy to take. You shouldn't be, the candidate shouldn't be foxed by the how to navigate through the test. It's practical. It can be done easily and efficiently. Oops. Okay, so one of the key features of Lingua Skill for the reading and listen, well, there's the various points about the AI that we use to create Lingua Skill that we have for an online test. And the reading and listening test, which is a combined test, we use adaptive testing. So we don't need to worry about examiners, and every candidate has a unique experience of traveling through the test. So adaptive testing means, as we say here, we've got used sophisticated algorithms to ensure that every candidate receives a unique version of a test tailored to their ability or level. So in the diagram that I have on the screen, you can see that every candidate, regardless of their level, will start about the same point in their test. So this candidate, and we've only got a small snapshot of their journey through the test in this picture because it's much longer and more complicated than this, but I think this gives you a rough idea of what we're talking about. So this candidate has started around an A2 type of question, and they got that right. And so the computer serves them with a question that is slightly more difficult, still in the A2 barrier, but it's gone up a little level of difficulty, and they got that right. So the algorithm then has selected an item that is at a question that's at B, just into the B1 level, and they got that one wrong. Now, of course, in a linear test, that would mean, oh dear, we're running out of questions and they've already reached B1 and they can't go any further. But the computer algorithm works in a different way. So yes, they didn't get that right, but maybe they were just unlucky. Maybe it was one little item of the whole of the B1 descriptors that they weren't prepared for. So the algorithm then presents them with an item which is slightly easier, back to that A2 level. They got that right, and so that proves that the A2 one that they got right before wasn't just a lucky guess. So now they're presented with a slightly more difficult question, but this time they get it right. And so, as you see, the graph that shows how the candidates are in, the questions they are being faced with are increasing in difficulty. And this is, as I say, a more simplistic way of showing you exactly what happens. But eventually, the algorithm is able to calculate where the limit of their capability is. When they keep getting questions wrong and they can't go higher than that, that suggests that's the cap of a candidate's ability. when the candidate has reached that, when the algorithm has decided where that level is, the test will stop. So in the case here, and remembering this is a much shorter version of what they've gone through, the final result appears to be that they got a B1 level, an upper B1 level. One question that you might ask is, how is it able to know that those items are really at the level that we say they are? And that is to do with the experts that we use to create the test. First of all, we use assessment specialists who have years of experience, and we write the questions at specific levels. And then they go through various quality assurance checks to make sure that these questions are at the right level. But that's just not enough. What we do is we pre-test these items on candidates at the right level, the candidates that we've already established what level they are, and make sure that the item is testing at the level that we say it is. Once we have statistical data to say what level this is, so there'll be a range of points scored in each of the CFR levels, then it is introduced into the test as a live item for candidates to be assessed on. I do see as a question from somebody, is it only online? Yes, Lingua Skill is only an online test, though obviously for some of the special requirements, it could be that there are paper-based versions, but it's only for candidates with special needs. Another point of the advanced computer-based testing we have is for the speaking and writing. Obviously, if you're testing the speaking and writing skill, it's not a simple yes/no question, and we have to find a different way of marking it. So one of the exciting features of Lingua Skill is at the forefront of advanced computer-based testing, and it's powered by artificial intelligence. And that includes the adaptive algorithm, but it also includes the auto marker. The auto marker is we use to computer marking for quick, accurate, and reliable measurement of a candidate's ability and writing, and now we are moving into speaking. So for writing, we have already launched a writing test, and this is a rewriting auto marker, and this has been created with our colleagues in Alto who Sue was talking about earlier. So we have a bunch of computer engineers, theoretical linguists, etc., computational linguists, all working at Cambridge University, we have worked very closely with to just create this adaptive, this auto-marked algorithm. And this means that when the candidates type in their answers to the test, this is then sent to an auto marker which is able to calculate their results. There's a video on our website which goes into much more detail, which I suggest if you're interested in this, you look to see how this works. But it's marking free writing. It isn't that candidates have to write formulaic sentences. It's really cutting edge. They can write in answer to a question in a free form way, and the auto-marked algorithm is able to look at the features of that piece of that script to assess what level along the Common European framework that candidate is at. We have also introducing the same for speaking. We are beginning to be able to release speaking results, but we're just still using examiners to check that results as well, because it's obviously slightly more complicated with speaking, but we're pretty much there now. A little bit of information on the test itself. So this is some information of what to expect when you get into the reading and listening test. The length of the test is about 60 to 85 minutes long. Customers can put a timer on if they want their cohort of candidates to have a set time of about an hour, and I think that's an hour and a quarter. But we always recommend that a timer is not switched on. And the reason for that is, if you cast your mind back to the diagram I showed you earlier of the candidate's journey through the test, we have a number of questions we want to ask them, but it doesn't. A candidate's performance can change. So some candidates are more erratic than others, so they take longer to get through the test. Maybe they just get some lucky guesses. But the really good thing about this form of testing is it won't reward lucky guesses, because obviously in a linear test you could just move. You have 50 questions, you move through the test and you get some right, you get some wrong, and the ones that you get right by chance you get the point for. But if you get a question right by chance in Lingua Skill, it's going to test you again at that level and again, just to check it wasn't a lucky guess. So if you get some candidates who are just a bit luckier, it could take a little bit longer for them to go through the test. But it's about 60 to 85 minutes long, and it's not a question of right or wrong. It's just trying to find where on that spectrum of A1 to C1 or above that the candidate's ability lies. So the number of questions they see is variable. I should also talk about how reliable this form of testing is. Normally, for a test to be considered reliable, it should have a reliability statistics of at least 0.90, that's considered a good, reliable test. What's quite exciting about this adaptive form of testing is that Lingua Skill has an overall, Lingua Skill listening and reading overall has a 0.96, so it's way above what is considered good. So it's a really strong way of testing. The types of questions that candidates have, you can see there. There you have the read and select. Candidates would have a short piece of reading, and they this is just the reading test at the moment. They choose the correct answer. They have some gapped sentences with a missing word. They choose from a selection the correct answer. The same thing in a longer piece of text where they have multiple choice options for each gap. Then we have another longer piece of text, but this time they have to type in the missing word. And then finally we have the longer extended reading, which is really helps to push candidates, especially at the higher levels. I will be getting on to, I can see there's some questions about proctoring. We will be getting onto that shortly. Listening, there are two main types of tasks, but really three. We have two short tasks, listen and select, which sometimes these are based around text that candidates read and then choose the correct option based on what they hear. But we also more target at the lower levels, some which are pictures, which candidates listen to a short audio and then choose the correct picture depending on the question. And then we have longer listening comprehensions where they have at least 5 questions to answer. So I think I've actually answered these questions. Again, so how long is the test? Again, it's about 60 to 85 minutes on average. A timer would be set at 85 minutes, but some candidates do finish it much quicker. Some take a little longer. What are the features of the test? It's the adaptivity. It's the instant results as well. As soon as the candidate has finished, the results are available. How reliable is a test? As I said, it's a 0.96 level of reliability. So we think that is something we really should shout about. It's a very reliable test. And how quickly are the results delivered? Instantly. That's depending on who, if the institution wishes to not let the candidates see their results immediately, because of their own recruitment purposes, for etc., then they do have the ability to turn that off, and they can be the person who distributes results. The writing test. The writing test takes 45 minutes. It's a 45-minute time limit. It is aimed, again, we have one writing test which is aimed at all the candidates. So obviously if you've got A1 candidates doing the test up to C1 or above, the ability of what they can understand and what they can produce is vastly different. So we have 2 parts to the test. The part 1 is an email. There's a short, candidates read short prompt, which is usually an email itself, and then they are asked to respond to it using some of the prompts. And we recommend that candidates take about 15 minutes on this. This is very much aimed at the lower level candidates to give them a chance of being able to produce some writing text. In the second part of the test, candidates are read a short text outlining a scenario and responding using some information from that scenario. Again, they have 3 prompts to try and encourage them. And if you look at the prompts, the level of complexity of language that is encouraged at each of those prompts increases. And this is the opportunity to give the stronger candidates a chance to shine, to really push themselves. They told, unlike most of our tests where we have a minimum word length or a maximum word length, we use a minimum word length. We say at least 50 words for part 1 and at least 180 words for part 2. And the reason for this is we want everybody to have an opportunity. If the stronger candidates are able to write more than 180 words and therefore demonstrate more of their ability, that is they're showing a wider range, that is all to the good. That there is a limit eventually, but it would be impossible for a real person to complete that in the time available. But our point is the length, the word maximum words length is a feature that is useful when you're having examiners mark the test. And as we're not using because examiners have got a limited amount of period when they've got to mark, obviously an auto marker marks more quickly than the examiner, so we don't have a maximum word length. So how is the test marked? As I've already mentioned this, that the test is marked by an auto marker. And one of the things about the auto marker, obviously, because it's computer technology, some people are very excited about this, some people are a little scared by it. But what I think is worth bearing in mind is before we launched with the auto marker, we did lots and lots of trialing we trialed on 3,928 candidates. This is not to create the auto marker, this is after the auto marker was created. We went and trialed it on Lingua Skill candidates to test their levels, and the scripts were marked by examiner and by auto marker, and we looked at the results together. And this was across 23 different countries and all of the CFR levels. And one of the things that we look with any test, examiner or auto marked, is what is the agreement between the examiners. The agreement between the examiners and the auto marker, between examiners and examiners and the auto marker, is slightly better between examiners and the auto marker than between examiners themselves. So examiners have an agreement rate between about 0.84, and the auto marker had an average of 0.88, which is considered a very reliable way of marking by our colleagues in the research and thought leadership. It means that unlike examiners, the auto marker doesn't have an off day. It's not sort of feeling like I'm getting tired, so getting harsher or more lenient. It's consistently marking whichever script that is given to it. The next 2 questions are questions that I am commonly asked. How do candidates achieve the best possible score, and how can candidates prepare for the test? They're sort of mixed up together. Because the test is based on people from A1 to C1 or above, it's really important that the candidates give us enough evidence and they try their best. So to achieve the best possible score is to show us the best range of their ability. So to go above and beyond, the more information that we have on how well they can write, the better. One of the things we don't want them to do, because the question is aimed at all of our candidates, it is possible to answer pretty correctly, very simply, in under the minimum word length. And it would be perfectly acceptable. But what candidates need to do is show us they can do more. And then for how do candidates prepare for the test, I will be coming on to look at some of the preparation materials, but it is a writing test, so all the ways that candidates write normally and are prepared for writing normally are the same. It's just you're typing it. That's the only difference. How quickly a test delivered. The writing test can be delivered in under 4 hours. In fact, our results from the previous month show us that the majority of candidates received a result or that it was issued to the centre within 2 hours. I mean, in the 92%. We have to allow a longer window for results to be turned around, just because of, like we've seen this morning, sometimes because we're waiting for the candidates to input their result, this is sent to an auto marker, which then is sent back into Metrica, which is then issued. So we need to make sure, just for upload and download speeds, that we allow a little longer to say when they're definitely going to be results. But the information given to us at the moment shows that it's the auto marker is issuing results very, very quickly. Moving on to the speaking test. The speaking test has 5 parts, and again, these 5 parts are to try and help all candidates achieve some marks in the test. So the test gradually does become a little bit more difficult as they move through the test. So the sorry, I'm trying to answer some of the questions as I see pop up. Lingua Skill is, I should say, is very much aimed at adults. 17 plus years is what it's aimed at. It's not for young learners yet. So the part 1 speaking test, the candidate answers 8 questions about themselves. The first 2 questions are not even marked. It's just to try and settle people in, put them at ease, getting them used to talking into a microphone. And these are very personal questions, and the sort of questions that most candidates are used to being asked whenever they join a course or do anything. So they start off, obviously, what's your name, etc., move into hobbies, etc. But again, the complexity of those personal questions increases as we get to number 8. Part 2 is about pronunciation, and it's candidates reading 8 sentences aloud. So they have 8 sentences. Again, these increase in complexity. So the first sentences are much easier. The intonation, elision, etc., that is needed for the part 8. Sorry, the 8th question is a bit more difficult. They're having to pronounce numbers, dates, times. They've got more complex phonemes in them, etc. In part 3, the candidates are given a topic to talk about for a minute. They get 40 seconds to think about it and some prompts to get them some ideas. And then after those 40 seconds, they have to present their questions, give their presentations. In part 4, it's similar again. This time they have some graphics, a chart, a diagram, or an information, and they're asked to talk about that for 1 minute. So it's free. Both of these parts allow them absolute free speech to say what they want to say, but we've got a prompt for them to try and stimulate them to speak as much as possible. And the candidate, in the part 5, the candidate it's to try and give an idea of quick free speech responses. They know they've got a topic. They're told they're going to be talking about holidays, for example, and they're told they might be asked several questions about hotels, about travel, etc. Perhaps again, not at the moment, but and then they are given 5 questions which they hear and they respond to immediately. So they've already had a chance to think about the topic, though they haven't heard the question. So it's a bit more trying to give them the idea of a communicative situation where they will have to just respond to another speaker. How is the test marked? The test is marked at the moment mostly by examiners. We have switched our auto marking capability on, but at the moment we are also backing that up with examiner marks, just to make sure that we're happy with all the results that are being issued. The examiners that we have been using have been working very hard, even as our numbers have increased, to make sure that the results do go out in time. Like the writing test, how candidates achieve the best possible score is speaking as much as possible. It's tempting sometimes, and I often say this as a mother of teenagers, it's often possible that they get asked a question and they just went, maybe, yeah, no, this won't do. They need to try and speak as much as possible, because like any exam, all that we can mark on is what is presented to us. It doesn't matter If they speak for longer, you know, they get cut off in the middle of the speaking window, we assess on that window, that the amount of speech they've, it doesn't matter if they're halfway through a sentence, for example. We are just making sure that they are, that we have evidence, and that from that evidence we can get the best possible result for them. How can candidates prepare for the test? Again, it is a bit different from most speaking tests where you're not talking to an examiner. So it does take a little different way of thinking about it. Again, later on, I will be talking about some of the support materials that we have available, which show that how we can get candidates to prepare for the test. How quickly is results delivered? Within 48 hours, as I said, even the examiner mark solution, we are managing to get the results turned around very quickly with a very experienced group of examiners. So moving on, I think some people have been asking about remote proctoring. So now, since we've all moved into lockdown in this new world, we have managed to get work with a group of different remote proctoring solutions. They're specialist proctoring services, and this is an add-on. It's not part of the platform, but so we can work with a group of people, with an agent or a channel partner, to see what they want from their remote proctoring solution and recommend different specialists. The options that we've got with the companies that we've been working are, there's full live human proctoring, so there's somebody just watching whoever is remotely, whoever is doing the test. There's a live launch and record, so the candidate is recorded and then the results, their performance is reviewed afterwards, or fully recorded. Some AI solutions as well. We've got a choice of external providers available to suit your needs. If other people come across new remote proctors that they want to wish for, you can get in touch with our customer services to see if they are fulfilling the needs that we have of our remote proctors, because it is important that the test is invigilated or proctored in some ways to ensure the validity of the result. I think we've touched on this already. Very fast results, you can get individual test reports and group reports. As I said before, the listening and reading test, the results are instant. The writing test will get a result mostly within 4 hours, and the speaking test within 48 hours. The test is easy to administer. It's at your own site whenever you want. There's an example of how the landing page looks to candidates. It's online and on demand. So I think this is a very key feature of Lingua Skill. You decide when you want to have your testing session set up for your candidates, and then that can be set up. There's in-depth reporting. So on the screen at the moment, we have an example of a test report form which the candidate will receive. As you can see, it's got the candidate's name, date of birth, and the organisation where they are, if that is wished. And in the individual test report form, the candidates get a score on every part of the test, every module of the test they have sat. So this candidate here has done the listening and reading and the speaking test. The writing test would appear too if the candidate had taken that. So the advantage of Lingua Skill is we have this modular test where you can take 2, 1, 3, 4 of the skills depending on what your needs are. So if you look at the test, if you look at the listening section, the candidate did quite well in there. They've just received over an A2. In reading, they did even better. They got up to B2. This is not unusual that some people's reading skill is better than their listening skill. What happens is this thermometer in each of the different skills shows you where their level is on that particular skill. But at the top, we have a thermometer which shows what their average level is if you average all the skills that they have taken. So in this case, this is an average of listening, reading and speaking, unless it's just the writing has been cut off of the screen, which I think it might have, but it could be. It's an average of whatever modules of the test they have taken. Also to the side, you get a little description of if that candidate has achieved just about over A2, we have an example of what we would expect an A2 listener to be able to do. The reading test as well, we see this person has got just a B1 level, and we have another descriptor showing what a reader at B2 would be able to do. On the back of the report, there is also some very high level general descriptors to show a contrast of each of the skills at each of the levels, roughly, and it's a very rough summary of what candidates are able to do at each level. For more detail, you would have to look at the Common European Framework, which is a massive document giving much more detail. But there is a link to that document at the bottom of the test report form. Also, we have a group report for the institution that is doing the test. So when you have a cohort of students, this is what it looks like. So you have here in this example, you have 4. It's quite a short one, but 4 candidates, and you would normally have their names, first name and family name, and then the grades of what they got at each of the scores. If you can see in these candidates, they've sometimes got, no, we haven't on this one, sorry. The other thing is if a candidate needs to get the best possible score, they can have a couple of attempts at the test if that is what the institution wishes them to do, and they have a 3-month window in which to resit the test, and if their score improves, then that can what will go on to the individual report or the group report will be their best possible score, which I think is quite a good feature, and just in case people have an attack of nerves and feel like if they had a chance and they were feeling a bit more confident, they get a better score. They do have a 3-month window. We've set a window because if you took the test, if you got a really good score at the beginning of the test and you kept on keeping the window open forever, perhaps that wouldn't be an accurate picture of their overall ability in one particular scenario. So we do need to have a bit of a limit. Another thing is just to check is a Lingual Skill results service. If somebody comes to you with a Lingual Skill result and you need to check that this is an accurate result and there's been no issues with it, it is who they say they are and it is the score, you can check the correct results in seconds. It's part of the website. You've got to check a result and adds a security to the test scores. This has proved very popular. And now on to some of the resources that you can use in order to prepare candidates. These slides move from what the most that can be done to help prepare candidates to the simplest. Oh, Sue, would you like to talk about this?
Shall I come in here?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay. Thank you very much, Brona. Just to give you a bit of a rest. Thank you very much. Thank you for that. I hope that was informative for everyone. I can see that there are some questions coming through. If you don't mind, I'm just going to pause and just for a few minutes and just address some of those questions before I just go on to talk about some of the resources that we've got. I think there's a key question there which has just come through, which is around what's the difference between Lingua Skill and Ielts. So I'm just going to take that one just so that you fully understand. So I think that everybody knows Ielts is one of the world leading international tests of English, which is used for mobility across the globe. So when people want to go to study abroad, or if they want to go and live and work abroad, then obviously Ielts is the international standard. And that's because it is accepted by many governments and institutions for accepting students to travel into different countries to be able to study and work. Now, Lingual Skill is not in that space. What we are offering is an assessment tool, a testing tool, which an institution can use for its own purposes, or as I said, a company can use for its own purposes. So it isn't, if you need to have to prove your English in order to study abroad or to work abroad, then obviously IELTS is the global standard for that. What Lingua Skill does is it helps and enables institutions to be able to work and use testing for their own purposes. And that's where I think the link to learning is particularly important, because what we are proposing is that obviously we're trying to address the needs of an institution, not just for assessment, but also for learning. And we work, with our sister department in Cambridge University Press, and we've been working very closely to provide resources for teaching that dovetail very nicely with Lingua Skill. So one of the courses that we recommend, if you are looking at addressing both your learning and assessment needs as an institution together, is that Empower is a course that is published by the press, and it is a course which has lots of digital components to it as well. So it can be operated and taught over Zoom, for example. It has a digital and print offering in its component range, and many institutions have pivoted to teaching 100% online, and therefore Empower does allow you to pivot in that way. And the important thing with the link to Lingua Skill is that it actually uses some of the same technology that is used in Lingua Skill. So a lot of the task types in the course are the same as they are in Lingua Skill. So not only will it teach you general English, but it will also help to familiarize you with the type of tasks and activities and the test content and construct which Brona just talked about is all in Empower. So they dovetail very nicely together if you think that your institution would like to take both of those products. And also, just additionally to that, we also have the online learning course. Now, this is a course is slightly different from Empower, because Empower is a teacher-instructed course. Yeah, so obviously it requires a teacher, and it's got components that the teacher can use, as well as components which the students can use, and all of it can be put online. But it is a teacher-led, a teacher-instructed course. The Lingua Skill online learning course, however, isn't. So this is a self-access course for students, and this is far more about preparing for Lingua Skill, okay? Whereas Empower is a general English course which you would run and you would have as part of your institutional offering to teaching English, but you can also use the online learning course together with Empower. What it does is supplement any general English instruction that you are giving in order to prepare students for the test-taking experience that they will have with Lingua Skill. Okay, so that's a slightly different proposition for you in the space of learning. And also additionally, we also have the Learning Quick Guide, which is also actually being at the moment offered via the Cambridge University Press as well, and for a limited time only, actually, we are also offering this free. This is a quick guide which basically just gives you some orientation around what Lingua Skill is, and it's really important as a guide not only for teachers in how you should prepare students for Lingua Skill or how you can do that, but also for the students and the candidates themselves, because as Brona has just brilliantly explained, Lingua Skill is an adaptive test, and therefore when you are sitting the test, it's very different from a linear test. Now, sometimes students have grown up taking linear tests. So, for example, they may not want to answer a question and just say, oh, I can't do that one, and just because I'm worried about time, I'm going to go on to the next question, right? So that's kind of what we've got in our head of how we take an assessment. Now, the thing is with an adaptive test, as Brona did mention, is that actually that in many places can work against you, right? Because actually what you've got to really do is answer all the questions and keep keep feeding the algorithm the information so it can accurately assess you as an individual, because each individual will have a completely different result that is bespoke to them. And this quick guide really helps both teachers and students understand what that means in terms of preparing teachers and students to take the test. Yeah, how you take the test and how the test works, and what's the advantageous behavior as a test taker in order for you to get the best result for yourself. So that is also available. And additionally, you know, I really would encourage you. I've seen a lot of the questions, and I'm so glad that you've engaged with Lingua Skill and you're interested in it. And I can see that you've been asking lots of great questions. So please do go to the website, and there you will see there is a load of information, additional information. We do also have some Lingua Skill tests that you can just try out. There's a little download there, and you can just try and have a little practice and get a feel for it yourself. But there's also huge amounts of free learning resources that we also are very happy to share with you as part of, you know, we are an academic institution ourselves, so we support learning just as much as you do. And so we're very keen for you to be able to have as many resources as you need to be able to understand what Lingua Skill is, and also, you know, embed it as part of your institutional solution. So please do go ahead and experiment. So just want to finish off really just by giving you a little bit of an insight as to how it's being used globally. Now, I did notice a question a little bit earlier on, which sort of pleased me, is that there were some questions there, comments about how Lingua Skill looks great, and just question around why you hadn't heard of it before. Well, it's a brand new technology, and the reason potentially some of you haven't heard about it before is because we have been launching this across the globe over the last 2 to 4 years. I mean, it launched very gradually, because with a new technological product, you need to launch these things carefully, and you need to learn not only about how the technology itself, but the technology has to learn as well. So we've also been learning along with our algorithm. We've been learning together, and now, you know, we are at a stage we are fully launching this product globally, and we've already had a huge response. And obviously, under COVID, it's exacerbated the levels of engagement with the product, because it's necessitated online at-home solutions. So that really is where Lingua Skill has really embedded itself, I think, in the sort of global educational landscape. So an example here, for example, is we've got it in Singapore. So the Nanyang Technological University, they tailor English teaching support with Lingua Skill, and they use it for their English language programs for their international postgraduate students. And it's used as an integral part of their program, and it helps the university understand the language needs of their students related to the 4 skills. So they take the 4 skills across their institution. Obviously, this is a picture of a pre-COVID scenario. We can now obviously operate at home with a remote proctored solution. I mentioned airlines. Now, I know airlines have been, you know, pretty badly hit at the moment, but let's assume that we will all join the airwaves once again at some stage. And we work very closely with Air France. We also work with Air Portugal, various other airlines, and the airlines are very, very keen at integrating Lingua Skill into their corporations, because it helps them to understand the levels of English that they need across their own organisation. So customer-facing roles, for example, would require higher standards of English than some of the the back office or actually the ground staff in the airports. They've got different levels of language that they need depending on the roles that they're fulfilling in the organisation. And they really use this as a rigorous promotional tool to make sure that the right levels of English are required before staff are able to progress through the organisation. And that really motivates, right? It really motivates because, as I say, being a language learner, it's a long and lifelong, it's a lifelong learning journey, and we need to keep ourselves, and obviously organisations are concerned about keeping their staff motivated to ensure that they keep their language active, live and growing. So big list of other organisations, as I say, really very global in our reach. We've got France, Brazil, Argentina, USA, Malaysia, Japan. You can see it for yourself. Pakistan, India, in fact, have just really engaged with us hugely as well just recently. So, we really are beginning to get a really huge amount of global reach in interest in Lingua Skill. As I say, delivered by the experts, designed and developed by experts from Cambridge Assessment English. That's a photograph of our foyer in our lovely building, which unfortunately we're not in at the moment. But as we face those challenges going forwards, I hope that you can see the advantages of the information that we've given you today, and that will really help to solve some of the problems that you have. And we do very much see ourselves, as I say, as an academic institution working hand in hand with you. So with that, I think I'm going to draw the session to a close and pass over to my colleagues, unless we want a few, maybe I'll just flip back, maybe we've got a few questions coming through. Brona, I don't know if you've noticed anything that I've missed. Oh, you're muted, Brona. No, can't hear you. Oh, no, we've lost Brona. Never mind. I'm sure. Get Brona back. So,
can you hear me now?
Oh, brilliant. Well done, Brona. Yes, thank you. Julia, I don't know if you've noticed any questions.
There were a few questions there about the cost, etc. Do you know where they should go, Sue?
Yeah, so Julia, I think you're going to take the questions about, obviously, the reason I'm not going to answer those questions is because it depends on where you are. We're in Cambridge, Julia's obviously in the region, so I will leave my esteemed colleague Julia to take those questions and point you in the right direction in terms of the costing and commercial framework that you're operating in your region.
Thank you, Sue. Yes, after the webinar, we will share the list of our Lingua Skill agents, and you will be able to contact them to find out about the price, because the price could be a little bit different in different centers, but it's affordable. So there will be a follow-up email with this information. Sue, your mic is muted. We cannot hear you.
Great, sorry. I don't know if you just heard that, but I just had a little... You may have heard my son saying lunchtime. Apologies if that got through to you, to everybody. So these are the wonderful world of working from home. So great, thank you, Julia. With that, I think I'm going to pass over to my colleagues and say thank you very much. And thank you, Bruno, as well, for supporting with this.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference, everybody.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you, Brona.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Very detailed and informative presentation. We're extremely happy that now we have this online test, Lingua Skill, remote proctoring. Our test takers can take this test even from home. Great. Thank you very much. Sorry, can you hear me? Please put a plus in. Okay, great. Yes, unfortunately, Dr. Hisham is still trying to fix the problem. The IT team is working on this issue. And I'm happy to introduce the next presenter, Christian Grant. Chris, can you hear me? Hi.
Oh, hold on. There we go. Hello.
Hello, hello. I'm uploading your slides.
Perfect. I will switch my camera back off just to make sure the audio, everyone can hear me all right. But I just wanted to say hello. I am here.
Hello, hello. We are so happy to see you today. Christian Grant is Product Manager, Cambridge Assessment English, and Chris is going to talk about digital resources, online tools that could be useful during exam preparation and language learning. So, Chris,
That's it.
can you see your slides? Can you see the arrows to change?
I can. So let me just switch my camera off to make sure the audio
Okay. Mm-hmm.
good. Cool. Right, my name is Christian Grant. So I'm a product manager working alongside the Cambridge Assessment English new product development team. So my role is to really help shape the design and development for new digital products or concepts, and then bring those to market in the form of a minimal viable product. So that's an early stage product. So the new digital product team within Cambridge Assessment English consists of a small group of very talented specialists. I am not a talented specialist. I am very much a generalist who tries to bring it all together. But this group work in a new way for the business, really, which is Agile Development. And that's to bring ideas quickly to market quickly as possible through the development cycle. This speed kind of allows the team to have users at the core of of the product development, and kind of continuously make course corrections and adjustments based on feedback and data from end users. This way of working does mean that I do a lot of trying and a lot of failing, but we fail fast. We make lots of mistakes, but I have been given permission by the teams around me to make those mistakes, as long as we're aspiring to innovate and learn. And the most important thing for innovation is that we take those mistakes and build upon them to generate new ideas and innovation. So with all that being said, I'd like to present a few of the digital resources that we do have available for you. The first of which, if I move on to the next slide, is Write and Improve. So I will talk you through what Write and Improve is. I'll move to the next slide. Sorry, I'm having a few issues there. Right, lovely. So, what is Write and Improve? Write and Improve is a tool to help learners improve their writing faster, not faster writing, improve their writing faster. It does this by using automated marking technology, which was invented in Cambridge. So it's the same technology that Sue talked about for the Lingua Skill product. It's based on the same technology, auto marking technology. The product is kind of provided in association with Cambridge English and the Cambridge University Press, so it's a joint exercise. Okay. So what we have here is the basic interface that learners will see within Write and Improve. And on the left-hand side, you'll see an area which has got the question, and an area underneath that in order to write, so the learner can write their answer. On the right-hand side, you'll see the highlighted words and sentences, which could be, sorry, on the right-hand side, you'll see a score and a feedback, and a highlighted area where you'll see the sentence, where the sentences could be improved. You can edit that answer on the left again, while reviewing the feedback, so it's live. So traditionally, getting feedback or grades might take days or even weeks. Write and Improve has been specifically designed to offer the learner near instant feedback, so the results that you get are almost instant, so seconds. What I'd like to do now is just take you through a short example from within Write and Improve. So here we have an example task. So there's a note here about going to a party, and what the learner has to do is write a note to a rather lovely fellow called Chris. So what we'll do now is, if we move that on, this is what the candidate has written, or the learner has written, and the response has been marked by Write and Improve. So the first area is that shaded, it should be yellow, but it might not look that yellow on the screen. It's more of a kind of orange, darky red, but the top highlighted hatched area. And this Write and Improve has indicated that this part of the sentence could possibly be improved. And then underneath that, there's a shaded yellow area, so not the hatched area. And this indicates that there's some problems in the sentence. And then there's various symbols which indicate what problems it's picked up as well. So the exclamation mark indicates to the learner that potentially there's an incorrect word here that shouldn't be here. And then the forward and back arrows that you're seeing there ask the user to have a look at this part of the sentence to see whether they forgot something before or after this word. You could also potentially see a question mark, which means it's highlighted as a suspicious word, so something doesn't look quite right about that word. So the feedback that's provided to the learner is it always asks questions. It doesn't tell the learner what to do. It just highlights an area that they should review. So it's simply drawing their attention to the part of the text which they may want to rethink or review, relook at. So here's an example by highlighting over the exclamation mark in the text. It's asking whether this is an extra word, so whether the word in this part of the sentence is needed and whether it's clearer if you take that word out. So this is really just prompting the learner to review their own work and resubmit. So Write and Improve shortens the time between writing and receiving feedback to nearly zero. So it's literally seconds. And learners can revise their work as they do it to learn and improve faster. So at this point, I'll move on to the next slide. Just a quick summary of what the main bulk of Write and Improve is. So the free version, so the version that you can access for free, is for general English. It works with learners of all levels and features specific workbooks for beginner, intermediate and advanced. It's all accessed over the internet and can be used on all modern browsers and devices. So within each workbook, so that's the beginner, intermediate and advanced level workbooks, there's over 40 ready-to-use writing tasks. Learners can keep checking their work without limitation. So with the free version, they can review and resubmit work as many times as they like. We've worked, well, the team, I say we, the royal we, the team have worked really hard to include lots of engaging topics in each of the workbooks. And learners can see how they improve over time. So there's a progress of how learners are improving, hopefully, over a period of time. It's also possible for both learners and teachers to create and share their own writing tasks. And Write and Improve will mark any task, including ones not written by the Write and Improve team. So people in the field are using this for their own work and their own tasks, rather than just what the team have provided. Here is a screenshot of the full interface for selecting a workbook and tasks, so you can get an idea of how the interface looks for the learner. On the left-hand side, you'll see the workbook categories. So the previously mentioned kind of beginner, intermediate, advanced, but you'll also see we've introduced a business section, which is not on this screenshot. If you go to the site, you'll see that that's been introduced, and just for fun. So there's plenty of options there, lots and lots of free content for people to get engaged with. Oops. So how does it work? So how does Write and Improve work? Everyone's favourite bit of every TV show, the science bit. So behind it, well, you've obviously heard of the algorithm that's being used in Lingua Skill. This is based off the same, this is the same algorithm behind Write and Improve, and obviously that came out of research at the University of Cambridge. Also, it takes error data from the 30 million word Cambridge Learner corpus. There's also an annotation team which are continually adding more data to the Write and Improve database. And what Write and Improve does is it only displays feedback if it's 90% sure about the results that it's giving. But like everything, it's not a silver bullet, it's not a catch-all. Like it says on the slide, it's not magic. It's not 100% accurate, but it is very good, and it's getting better all the time. The more data they feed it, the more the algorithm improves. It's not a tool. It's a tool for teachers and learners. It's not a teacher replacement. So the Write and Improve is not designed to remove the teacher from marking or the reviewing of pupils' work. What it provides is excellent guidance, but not authoritative. So that means we think that's a good thing, and it doesn't actually fix the text. That's up to the learner, which again we think's very important, that they correct their own work and we don't just do it for them. So yeah, does it work? Good question. So Write and Improve has been thoroughly tested with millions of users across more than 15,000 cities and over 225 territories. So it's pretty robust. We're fairly confident in it, and like I said, it doesn't display results that it's not more than 90% sure about. But with all these users, what do users think about it? So what is the feedback from people actually using the product? So the feedback from teachers is they see great value in Write and Improve, and that the service really does make a difference to both other teachers and learners. So teachers do see great value in using Write and Improve as part of the classroom. And what about the learners? So learners also see great value in the product. So recent feedback from learners shows the value of the product, with many positive words jumping out of the word cloud that was generated. So this was, you'll see on the screen, a word cloud that was generated from feedback we received. And kind of, for me, the words that stand out, which are really positive, are words like great, amazing, useful, excellent. And they really show that this is a useful tool for learners. So next I would like to talk to you about part of the product called ClassView. So ClassView provides more tools for teachers to use Write and Improve with their classes. So if you want, sorry, I need to move on to the next slide. So if you wanted to, in theory, you could use Write and Improve to completely manage the process of setting, marking and managing writing assignments. In other words, kind of no more paper, no more pushing paper around. And I think in this current environment, that's more than a positive thing. So what we have here, so yeah, now I will give you a short overview of what's included within the ClassView area of Write and Improve. So yeah, what we have is over 250 ready-to-use tasks, including exam practice from the test zone area. I'll come on to test zone in a minute. So this test zone is the learner offering, so direct-to-learner offering that focuses on exam practice. ClassView also includes teacher-written tasks, allows you to set tasks as homework or use it in class, receive work already marked, and then add your comments and final grade, and also access whole class reports. So within ClassView, there's a learner management section. This gives you a class inside the application, so you can add and remove learners who are part of the class. You can also control the username and password of the students from this area as well. When learners submit work, you as a teacher will receive it within the application. And you see every version of the attempt of the task, so not just their initial submission, you'll see every version. You'll also see the feedback and the score they received from Write and Improve, a starting point for marking the written assignment. You can then provide your final feedback and grade in the application, and this is then shown to the learner. As a teacher in ClassView, you can also review how everyone in the class is doing. So you'll see on this chart here, it shows the grade ranges that each learner is scoring. And this really does enable you to identify who needs a little extra help or support, so you can initiate those interventions. So now I'd like to talk to you about the premium option we have for learners within Write and Improve. This section of Write and Improve is called Test Zone, and it lets learners use Write and Improve specifically for exam preparation. So Write and Improve helps learners succeed with realistic exam writing tasks, including tasks for Ielts and B2 First. Learners can sign up for the test zone on the Write and Improve website and receive their first test free, so they can go in and attempt it and see whether it's the right fit for them before they have to make any subscription to the service. Yeah, so learners can attempt full-length exam writing tasks, kind of 1 hour plus most of them, that are realistic, and unlike the real exam, they can keep trying to improve the score. So there's plenty of tasks for them to do over and over again, and like I said, with the added benefit that they can retry until they get to the level that they wish. The previously mentioned class view area, so the test view zone is included within the class view option, so teachers can set exam practice for learners, and the learners don't have to purchase that separately. So that's Write and Improve. If you want any additional information on Write and Improve, you can go to the website, which is writeandimprove.com. Or if you have any questions that about the product or service, you can email support@writeandimprove.com, and they'll be able to answer any of those specific questions that you've got. Okay. So at this point, I'd like to move on to another product that we've got available. This one is kind of my baby. This is the one I brought through to launch. And this one is called Exam Lift. So hold on, I've lost the move forward button. Right. Okay. So yeah, our goal, well, the goal of my team is for teachers and learners to feel supported and prepared for our exams. So, as well as for learners to feel confident in their skills and ability. So a big step towards building this confidence is the ability to access English language practice materials anytime and anywhere in an easily digestible and on-the-go format. So this is why we launched Exam Lift this year. So we introduced a version for B2 earlier in the year, and we've introduced also a version for A2. So Exam Lift is our first mobile-based app designed to make exam preparation not only accessible on the go, anytime and anywhere, but also fun to engage with the Generation Z or X, which one, either or all. So Exam Lift mobile apps are aimed at learners preparing for B1 preliminary for schools and A2 key for schools. They offer engaging skills-based activities and practice tasks delivered in a daily bite-sized pack. Exam Lift is designed to be supplementary to any learning that takes place in the classroom or at home. It doesn't replace it. It's an additive product to help support them, support learners. And the content that we have is informed by the Cambridge Assessment English expertise, the Cambridge Learner Corpus and the CFR. And the idea really is it helps develop a variety of skills from skimming and scanning to identifying collocations and predicting content for productive listening activities. It does this with a variety of timed activities and instant feedback to help engage and motivate learners and encourage them for positive attitudes and effective learning behaviours. Sorry, I'm having issues with the slider. It's hidden behind another window. Hold on a second, sorry. There we go, that's better. Right, so yeah, it's full of, Exam Lift is full of, right slide, yeah, sorry guys. Exam Lift is full of kind of short, fun, gamified activities for learners to review and practice their English language skills. It offers a gamified pleasurable experience, so slightly different to other material that we've offered in the past. And really the experience is there to maximise engagement and foster kind of confidence in the learner's ability. What we're very conscious of is to make sure that for a mobile format that the learning doesn't take a lot of time or effort, so it needs to really be pick up and play, very fun, very reactive. So the activities are available to learners on the go, wherever and whenever they want. So it's very important that it's very accessible. So our approach in designing the activities for ExamLift involved looking at existing research to help form initial assumptions. We followed that by asking learners and teachers about their experience and approaches for exam preparation. So this was an activity that we did in our team, and although their dislikes and likes and reasons for learning English differed greatly, they all agreed that the learning experience needs to include more than just the current classroom environment. So with that knowledge, ExamLift includes a number of skills-based activities tailored to practice the skills related to each of the exam task types in a really bite-sized and manageable format, while drawing the learner's attention to how specific language practice will help them succeed in the exam. The way this is delivered to the learner is every 24 hours they will receive a daily pack, and in each daily pack it will comprise of kind of 4 activity types, which is sorry, getting all tongue-tied, a mixture of reading, listening, writing and speaking, and each new pack contains a different mix of activities. So most of the packs contain at least one activity for reading, listening, writing and speaking, but we have different activities in each of those task types. So taking exam practice tests as part of the preparation for exams, while being a valuable exercise, requires a lot of time and effort, which can be demotivating for young learners. So our skills-based activities in ExamLift are short and fast-paced. Each of them are directly linked to the revised B1 preliminary and A2 key for schools exam papers, and designed to support the skill development that learners need in order to successfully pass the exam. So here you can see some of the thinking and examples behind the areas which we were focusing on in reading, listening, writing and speaking. So within reading, we focused on skimming and scanning, attention and focus. Within the listening component, we looked at predicting answers and phoneme decoding. Writing, we looked at spelling, phrasal verbs, grammar and syntax. And then within speaking, quick vocabulary recall, collocations and expressions, and rephrasing pronunciation. So what I'd like to do here is walk you through a few examples of the tasks that we have within ExamLift. So to start with, we've got a speed reading task. So this one's been designed as an expeditious reading task. It harnesses the technology to train candidates' ability to process chunks of text quickly and under pressure. So the aim really is to train their attention to detail and focus at a higher reading speed, giving the learner useful skills for the reading part of the exam. So next we have an activity called Phrasal Verbs. So this one is extremely popular, just to say that from the start, but on the surface of it, it's a vocabulary revision and building task. However, it's not quite as simple as that. I think so by asking learners to piece different parts of the phrasal verbs together, and by gamifying the experience with the timer and the score, we're forcing learners to notice what verbs go with which prepositions and what meaning it creates. It's not meant to be a complete learning tool. We're giving them just enough context to help with vocabulary revision, while encouraging them to explore any uncertainties that they may have, or any new meaning they discover within the words that are presented independently. This particular task was designed to help learners with the reading part 6 part of the exam, where candidates have to think of a correct word to fill gaps, which is often based on collocations, grammar, and includes phrasal verbs. So next up, we have an example of a listening task. So this one's called minimal pairs. And it's a listening activity aimed at helping learners distinguish between words that sound similar. My son really likes this one. I've got a 7-year-old son and he really likes this one. Here again, we're drawing the candidate's attention to the nuanced differences in pronunciation of commonly mispronounced words that they might struggle with pronouncing and recognising during listening. Again, it's a gamified experience which attempts to mimic the time pressure, simulating the settings of the listening exam, training candidates to respond quickly and accurately, and also build their confidence in their abilities to differentiate between different sounds. So probably what's not clear from the picture is those words will drop from the top of the screen, and then you have to click it before it reaches the bottom of the screen. So that's the kind of gamified element that we've introduced. Excuse me, sorry. So this task really does come in useful in all the listening tasks of the paper question, and is especially useful for the productive task, for example, listening part 3. So next up is a topic match. So topic match is a listening activity in which learners hear a word and a challenge to decide which topic it belongs to in order to build skills for success in the listening exam. So this activity serves as kind of a fun practice tool for vocab recall and activation around a specific topic. It provides some vocabulary training and draws learners' attention to how different words are pronounced. But kind of more importantly, it teaches them to think about all the possible words that could be associated with a topic, training them to in predicting what they're going to hear. So this activity really is particularly useful for the listening parts 3 and 4 in the assessment. Next up, we have here a spelling task. So this is another kind of fast-paced activity containing common spelling errors made in B1 and A2 English language learners. Sorry, made by, not in, as informed by the Cambridge English Common Wrong answers. So this activity really does aim to improve the mastery and retention of correct spellings and encourage learners to strive for a perfect score. And obviously, apart from the obvious spelling and vocab revision, this activity enhances pattern recognition, forcing learners to kind of pay attention to how to commonly spell misspelled words. Again, here we're kind of harnessing the potential of the screen kind of to enable us to gamify the experience by adding kind of elements like timer and things like that, and making that connection between a word and how it's spelt that much stronger. The aim really here is to also pique the curiosity of the learner by offering useful vocabulary that learners might want to go and explore independently. And by utilising times and scoring, we're kind of training their attention to detail and focus, particularly useful not only for writing, but also productive tasks such as listening, part 2 in the exam. So what we have here is an error finding activity. So this one is a quick activity built around the common errors made in B1 and A2 English language learners, as informed by the Cambridge English corpus. So in this gamified activity, we focus on helping learners to stay focused and pay attention to the grammar as they write or check their writing. This game strongly encourages independence as learners might want to kind of explore independently why a certain structure is right and another is wrong. And kind of just like the spelling activity that I showed you just a second ago, the whole activity is built around using real candidate answers, displaying the most common wrong answers that have been produced. It also serves as a useful grammar revision activity, useful for all parts of both of the written parts of the exam. What we have here, you'll have to excuse the screenshot. So these are based on animations. So imagine, just for a moment, that on the phone screen there, you've got lots of different words which are jiggling about nicely. But this one's called topic associations, and this one's a speaking activity in which learners see topic displayed with 14 words. So just imagine there's 14 words jiggling around on that screen. And then they say out loud the words they think are associated with that topic. So this activity is against the clock to help learners develop topics and associated vocabulary under pressure in preparation for the speaking exam. So this part of this activity helps learners improve not only their pronunciation of individual words, but more importantly, it helps them remember the vocabulary relating to individual topics, which we see as a necessary skill under pressure in the conditions of any context requiring kind of speaking in a foreign language. It also trains their attention and focus, as they're required to quickly scan the screen in order to find and say out loud the necessary words. Remembering the necessary words can be useful for any speaking activity, but it is particularly important for talking about the pictures and particular topics in the speaking parts 2 and 3 of the exam. Okay, so 2 more left, guys. Penultimate one is dialogue. So this is another speaking example. So within this one's a kind of chatbot experience. So very on the nose for the generation that we intended this product for, or the app for. So in this, learners build a dialogue through prompts and options. So rather than instant feedback or right or wrong answers, the chatbot develops a pragmatic repair strategy, replicating real-life conversation scenarios and helping learners see that communication in English is possible even when not perfectly understood. So the activity really is quite creative and fun, based on speaking activity. It'll help the learners become at ease with conversing in English. So it provides them with a unique opportunity to be playful and not be afraid of saying something wrong to a speaking partner. It also demonstrates repair strategy, demonstrating that communication is kind of fun and fluid, and that the meaning can be conveyed in many different ways. It also practices their skimming and scanning skills under kind of time pressure, as well as trains their ability to respond appropriately using common phrases and chunks. It's really useful for the speaking in all contexts. It's really useful for speaking in all contexts, especially when talking with an examiner or a partner in the speaking parts 1 and 3 of the exam. So the final example I'm going to show you from Exam Lift is a tailored activity providing practice for a specific exam task type. So this you'll only see in the B1 preliminary version of the app. So this is a simplified B1 preliminary reading part 2 task. So we've taken that task and developed it for mobile. So in this part of the exam, in the paper-based exam, learners see 5 profiles of young people, 5 matching descriptions of activities or things that they might be interested in, and 3 distractors. In this, so the Exam Lift version, learners will see a shortened version of that task. So 1 profile at a time with 1 matching text and 2 distractors. So it's a limited version of that paper-based task. So within 60-second time limit, learners engage their skimming and scanning and interpretation skills to drag the matching text up to the person's profile. This activity keeps learners engaged and motivated, and the timer really assists learners in practicing their skills under time pressure. So by breaking the task down into manageable chunks, we've made not only it more accessible, but also more fun for the learners to engage with. This kind of exam practice draws the learner's attention to the kind of distraction deployed in the type of task, as well as forces them to practice their skimming and scanning again, and skills while paying attention to detail under time pressure. We hope that it kind of also fosters kind of independent learning, as this task doesn't provide all of the answers to the learner. And what we also have after every activity is a summary screen. So hopefully that prompts learners to review their answers, and the gamified features of each activity creates a great opportunity for learning and exploration in their own time. So in summary, our content design approach was informed by the CFR, inside a knowledge of the B1 preliminary and A2 Key for Schools exams, the Cambridge Learner Corpus, as well as the Cambridge Assessment English expertise. So we have people on the team which were also involved with the development of the actual exams. So as well as that, the exam lift was kind of specifically designed for small screens, and harnessed our kind of experience and expertise to create something that we feel is very accessible, diverse and inclusive. So we're very proud of the product. So yeah, in summary, kind of exam lift, we have 2 versions available currently. So one for B1 preliminary for schools and one for A2 Key for Schools. Both available on the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store for free. So I'd encourage you to give it a go. I am always absolutely delighted to hear all and any of your feedback, which you can give via either the store, or there's in the app there's an email address that can go to, because it's really important for us to have that in order to continue to expand the application and improve on the product. So it's very early days, and we're really moving forward with kind of feedback as the core to that. Okay, so that is exam lift. I will now move on to some of the other tools which have been around for slightly longer, so you may be familiar with them, but I'll give you a recap on what they are. So the first one I'd like to talk about is the digital teacher. So just to give you a bit of context about how we got to the digital teacher, there are kind of 2 types of technology users in the world. So we have kind of digital natives. So these are the people who grew up with the internet and modern devices like smartphones, tablets, etc. And then we have digital immigrants, so people who grew up without the internet and adopted it later in life. So teachers tell us that they want to use technology with their learners, but also that they need help selecting tools and using technology effectively for language learning. Excuse me, I just need to have a drink. So the digital teacher is a free professional development website that helps teachers and teacher trainers try out technology and develop digital skills. Its audience is primarily those who fall into the digital immigrant category, so those people that are adopting technology later, but who are enthusiastic about using technology in their classroom. It has kind of 3 key areas or features. So one is the test my digital skills, product reviews, and training. I'll go through those areas in a bit more detail in a second. but the whole site is underpinned by the Cambridge English Digital Framework for Language Learners. So first I'll discuss what that framework is. So the digital framework has been developed by experts in the field along with practicing language teachers and trainers, and is broken down into 6 sections that describe the key competencies for teaching effectively with technology. The broadest area, so the big world picture, is kind of the digital world. And this is all about understanding how technology can help with productivity, understanding information management, and things like how to communicate and behave appropriately online, understanding kind of legal issues about online, and how to manage the digital welfare and safety of your learners. So it's really the big overarching picture of the digital world. And then we move into a slightly more contained area, which is the digital classroom. So this is all about understanding teaching and learning theory, and how digital tools can help embed theory into practice. And understanding the capability of online learning platforms and the potential of digital technology, or the potential digital technology has for improving language proficiency and awareness. And then we keep coming in, and this is the individual teacher. So this talks about this is an area which really is how to take advantage of technology to help teachers develop and improve their teaching practice. And the benefits really of being part of a professional community online. And then we have a section dedicated to designing learning. So this is how to prepare for successful learning with digital tools and resources, how to source and evaluate digital tools and resources, and then integrate them into the lesson and course plans, and use technology to help the teacher organise learning content. So once those have been designed, obviously we need to then move into delivering learning. So this is another section. So this is an area which is how around feeling confident using digital tools and resources, and create a positive environment for learning with digital tools and resources, and really empower your learners to use their technology as part of their learning. And then finally, an area which is extremely important is evaluating the learning. So how to use the digital tools and resources to assess learner progress and achievement, and to respond to individual needs. So how to capture feedback on the effectiveness of a particular lesson or activity or new digital tool or resource. So that's the final area of the framework. So with this framework, we have an area called the Test My Digital Skills section. So this is a self-assessment tool which allows kind of teachers or teacher trainers or anyone interested to self-identify which areas of the framework they are more or less confident with. So each area of the framework has a set of questions the teacher can answer, and the answers are kind of broken down into 4 categories, ranging from awareness up to mastery and extensive knowledge. The aim really here is that the results of this self-assessment can be used to inform the direction and area of focus a teacher could potentially look at for continuing their professional development. So we have a review section. So with an increasing number of digital training tools available, the question really here is, how do you make the right choice? So this section, so the review section of the site, contains a list of kind of expert reviews which help teachers choose their tech with confidence. So the reviews have been written in a way that enables teachers to use technology with their learners. They contain kind of practical advice on how to use the product, as well as description of the features and their potential for helping language learners. So there's a lot of information on that part of the site. We also have a training section. So the training section hosts 3 types of resources. So we have training videos. So these are a list of kind of short videos where a specialist gives advice on a particular aspect of teaching with digital technology. There's also lesson plans on here, and these are details of how to deliver a lesson using a particular technology, and include teacher notes and handouts for students, so teachers can have a go at delivering a lesson using digital technology. Also on this part of the site we have tips, and these contain kind of general advice about how to get the most out of different technologies. So the future of the digital teacher. So we will be continuing to add more reviews and training material to the site. Very recently we added a Kahoot review or lesson plans as well, I think off the top of my head. So that's worth checking out because we produced a series of Kahoots for young learner. But also keeping up to date with the latest educational technology trends. So really the idea is to enable teachers to keep ahead of the curve with using their technology with the learners. We also will be looking at developing the Test My Digital Skills section, which we hopefully will be in a position to provide tailored results, which will enable us teachers to improve their practice in a more efficient manner. So they're things that we're potentially working on or will be working on for the digital teacher. The next resource that we have available is a site called Weekly. So this is what we've produced so let me start again, sorry. So Weekly is an exam preparation planner for teachers. So the idea really behind this project was to produce something which would save time and effort for teachers and let Cambridge English create a free personalised exam preparation plan with additional teacher support. So how this works is you go to the website and you choose your exam. So we have 3 available at the moment. So B1 Preliminary for schools, A2 for schools, A2 Key for schools, and B2 First for schools. Once you've chosen your exam, you choose your number of teaching weeks available and how much exam preparation time you have per week. And what the program will do is it will build a bespoke plan using the vast array of resources available from the Cambridge English website. So it pulls those resources into a plan which is easily accessible based on the criteria you've selected. So it's worth noting that we've updated the lesson plans and support material for B1 Preliminary for schools and A2 Key for schools. And the site also, as mentioned, covers B2 First for schools. So the final piece of the puzzle that I'm going to talk to you about is our Quiz Your English app. So Quiz Your English allows learners to kind of go head to head with other players from around the world, challenging their friends through social media to test their English language skills. So the learners can battle it out over a range of kind of general English language topics, grammar, or brush up ready for their test by selecting kind of specific exam topics. So Quiz Your English can be played for free, but there's also in-app purchases to reveal exclusive new content packs. So Quiz Your English covers exam levels A2 Key for schools, B1 Preliminary for schools, B2 First for schools, C1 Advanced, and Ielts 4 up to 6.5. What Quiz Your English also does is it includes content, the Empower and Grammar and Beyond content produced by Cambridge University Press. So that's available within the app. It's available on both the Android and iOS stores as a free download, but like I said, there is in-app purchases if that is something that's interesting for your learners. So that is me. Thank you for listening. Hopefully.
Thank you, Christian. Very interesting tools and resources. I see that lots of people have already downloaded Quick for English, or probably some of them are going to. Thanks a lot. We will share all the links in our follow-up email. Thank you for supporting us today, Christian.
Thank you, everyone. Absolute pleasure.
Now it's time to introduce the next presenter, Olha Medalis, teacher trainer and Cambridge University Press consultant. Olha, please, I will upload your slides in a second.
Thank you. Can we just check? Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Hooray,
can.
hooray.
Yes, yes, everything is okay. So can you see your slide?
Yeah. Is it working? Okay, right. Thank you, Julia. And thank you, everybody. I know you've been having a little bit of a stressful day today. Just the way I'm afraid. So we have to be very flexible and just try and be patient. So just before I start my presentation, I just want to share two websites with you that are Cambridge University Press websites. And they are very, very useful for us at the moment, especially if you have been having to teach online, if your future teaching might be blended. So do take a note of these, and I know Julia will share them with you as well, because we need as much help as we can get. Thank you for all your hellos. It's really nice to be with you. I'm here in London in the UK. So it's really nice to join you in, well, not just Russia. I feel that this is a very international session. So this is what I'm talking about today, motivating the motivated. And what I've learned in my career, and I've been teaching for 40 years, is that different age groups can be very different to teach. And I've taught from very, very young learners to quite senior learners. And one of the great things about teaching adults is that I think it's, they are just so different to other students because they have chosen to come to their lessons, and they tend to be incredibly motivated, and they're happy to come, and they're happy to hand over their money for lessons, and it's a nice deal. We like that kind of business situation. And adults are incredibly different to the younger learners, and I know some of you will probably be teaching teenagers as well as adults, and so some of the things I'm saying about adults is also true about teenagers, particularly the older teenagers, but not so true about the younger students. So one of the things with adults is they do want to be there. They have this motivation to be there, and they, that's a really important thing, because when you're teaching teenagers, when you're teaching youngsters, you have to do a lot of pushing, a lot of tantalizing. They have a lot of experience, and this is really important. They know about learning. They know, they've been in classrooms, they understand how to learn. They already have a lot of skills which are very, very useful, as well as life skills, and we can't forget those. Generally, they're very practical. They know what they want. They have a problem. They have an issue. They need more English for some reason. So that's what they're doing in your classroom. And they want results. They want, they want the deal. They're paying the money. they want to see something for that. I mean, even if they're not paying money, they're paying their time. And I know as a learner myself, when I'm studying something now as an adult, you know, come on, give me some stuff. I want to learn here. I'm not interested in wasting my time. And I think it's really important that they need to understand the process. They need to understand, well, why am I learning this? So in some ways they're great, but in some ways they're quite specific. I'm not going to say difficult. They have their needs, they have their wants, and we have to consider them. This motivation is important, but what can happen is that we don't always take account of all the different kinds of motivations. So if we think about motivation, can you think about what's the main reason why adults are learning English? Can you write that in your chat box there? Can you come up with any ideas? What are the main reasons that adults come and learn English? Work, absolutely, Anastasia. Lots of people saying work. Oh, right, absolutely. Well, I agree. I mean, I think there are probably, work is usually the main one, and somebody said travel as well. I mean, further studies is important because adults could be 18 to 21, they could be 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. But a lot of students at university level are interested in developing study skills, in studying maybe through English. Somebody's also mentioned they might be helping their kids. So they have different, these are the kind of 5 main areas where people are motivated. But what I see is that it's not that simple. It's not just one thing or another. That there can be, and I've chosen this image because I like food, but there are lots of different things. And somebody's also said for fun. So let's have a bit of fun. Okay, so in terms of what motivates us, we can break it up into different things like this. So for example, oh, sorry, I'm pressing the wrong button. It could be these external things that motivate us, extrinsic motivation. So we might want more money, we might want to get a better job, we might want to get higher grades, or somebody said even for immigration purposes, that's an external thing. And a number of you have said, you know, that's for fun, for pleasure, for enjoyment, that cultural awareness, all these things. We could have also this idea of short-term motivation, that you just really want to pass a test, get that exam. And as I spoke on Tuesday, this is quite a positive thing that can get you going, and you can say, yes, I'm going to head for this exam. And kind of long-term motivation as well is important. It's kind of part of our dreams. We want to be an English speaker. We want to be an international, global citizen. So this could be part of it. And in lots of terms, it could be very specific or very general. And it's not just one thing or another. So here we have a quiz question. I thought by this time in the afternoon you'll be ready for a quiz question. So get your fingers ready on the chat box and see who's the first person who answers this question. I am going to show you a flag, and I want you to write down the name of the country whose flag this is. Are you ready? Are you steady? Go. Who's going to be first? Let's see. Which country is this? Yay! Ilya has come up with, you all know, you're very good at your flags. I was going to give you another clue as well to help, but I think you don't need this one. Now, the reason why I'm showing you a flag of Italy is because for some bizarre reason, well, we'll find out the reasons, they're not so bizarre, a number of my friends are studying the Italian language. And they're all adults, they're all around my age. But what I was fascinated by is how diverse their motivations are. So, for example, here's Christine. And her lovely daughter has married a wonderful Italian guy. They both live in London, and they've both obviously they've had a baby recently, Raphael. And Christine decided very early on, when they were getting, married, that she would like to learn Italian because the husband's parents live in Italy. They don't speak much English, just hello, very little. So her motivation is very much communicative, and she wants to be part of that family. So her motivation is to communicate more with them, but not terribly often. Then there are Pete and Deb, who they're very frustrated at the moment because they can't go on holiday, but they go to Italy, to be honest, 2 or 3 times a year. They love Italy. And when they travel there, they don't want to be the regular, tourists who don't speak any of the language. They really enjoy speaking Italian to waiters, to tour guides, to people in hotels. It's part of their whole experience of being in that country. So we can see that that's very, very different to Christine's motivation. Now, here's a very interesting friend of mine, Don. He loves opera. He loves all classical music, but he's particularly crazy about opera, and he loves listening to Italian operas. So he's learning Italian so he can get that whole experience of listening to opera and understanding the whole thing, Verdi, etc. And finally, here's my lovely friend Michelle, and she's got a number of health problems, to be honest, and she's had to retire. But she has found that studying Italian has been a wonderful motivation for her, and her brain is working. She didn't want to stop thinking while she was doing this, and she really enjoys the social aspect of the classroom. At the moment, they're learning online, but she really, really enjoys being in that classroom with other learners and sharing that experience. So as we can see, that all these people, the adults, they're not learning for jobs, that they have different expectations of what they're going to learn. And I would describe these people as snowflakes, that they're all completely individual. So what I want to consider is what can go wrong in this situation, because it should be very straightforward to teach adults, but I just used Italian as an example, and we're talking about adults learning English. Things can go wrong for them despite the fact that they are very motivated. So let's think about what can go wrong. Well, one of the things that they can get frustrated about is the lack of progress. They want to learn certain things, and they're in a classroom where they're studying things where they may know already or they may not find very interesting. They want to learn certain things. And this is a very important thing, that if they study a course book, there might be lots of things in the course book that don't really suit them. It's not what they want. It's not what they're interested in. So this is something that they will get frustrated about. And this is actually a very important thing to remember, is that actually re-registration of adults in schools and courses is incredibly low. This is an international phenomena, and I'm sure it's true in Russia as well, that they come, but they don't stay. They get fed up. They may want more individual attention from the teacher, and they want more practice with the teacher rather than with other learners. And I think this is quite important, because this is my experience as an adult. Obviously, I'm an adult, going to do classes, is that I really would like to feel that I'm part of a group of people learning together, and there is some kind of community spirit, because that's a lovely thing about being a human being. And now particularly I'm missing this community spirit. And I can't see the bottom of that. This is a very important thing for all of us, is feeling that you don't get value for money, that of the course you go to, maybe only 10% of it was valuable for you, so you don't really feel that that was worthwhile, which is a bit frustrating. So let's think about how to get to grips with this and really help our adult students. One thing that I think is really important is we're all clear about goals. And I talked a bit about this on Tuesday, if you were listening then. And I think if we don't have clear goals, it's very difficult to actually move towards them. You know, I want to learn English. It's very, very vague. So I think, and if you're starting, I don't know, I would imagine you be starting courses soon. Even if you're teaching online, I think it's really good to talk to your students, to talk to your adult students, or even to your teenagers, and say, what do you want to achieve in this course? Particularly if it's a short course, but any course, talk to them, find out as much information, because that's really helpful. I find this incredibly helpful as a teacher. And get this discussion going with everybody in the class, because you may find that people have very similar ideas. Oh yes, I would like to know about that. Oh, that would be really useful for me. So for example, Christine and Deb and Pete would both, with the three of them, are interested in communicating, chatting, you know, very general things. And actually, Michelle does love opera. And so she would be interested in what John is saying too. And I think it's good to draw up learning aims. So this is what I want to cover in this course, in this time I have available. Also, to get them to tell you what they want from you, what kind of things they want help with. And if they particularly want guidance to other material, if they want particular focus on the spoken language, get these ideas from them, find out, because you're going to be planning your lessons and you can choose to do more of one thing than another. And I think this is where, when I talk about choosing, is we probably all have course books, and I love course books because they give us so much material, but we don't necessarily have to use all the material in the book. But we can also find ways of supplementing or personalizing the learning journey. And this is what we're going to look at in a moment. So what I think is really important is that the classroom experience should, number one, be very communicative, because that's really what people want generally, is to find out how do we, what's useful, what kind of language am I going to find out that's useful on an everyday basis. And this is a very generic thing. I'll show you examples in a moment. But we want stuff that's useful all the time, not very specific words. We can learn those individually. How can we communicate? How can we exchange ideas between us? And also, I think the classroom experience should be flexible enough that we can bring in other things. So one, you know, if somebody's particularly interested in something, for example, cookery, they love food, they can bring in some material, they can share it, they can talk about it. And I think that's we have to have that flexibility. So when I'm talking about generic language, here's an example. Now, this word is one of the most common words in the English language. Now, in what context do you think we come across this word most often? What kind of phrase would you have this in? Any ideas? Anybody want to on the chat box? A linking word, yes. Relative clauses, yeah. That is the question. Oh, I'm going to have to switch off the camera, I think. How do I do that? Right, I'm switching off the camera because I've got a message saying I had a problem. Okay, so in fact, that is most commonly used in expressions like this. So that's interesting. That's amazing. Oh, that's so sad. So I'm afraid I'm sorry about the camera, but I was losing my signal. So, but what I'm trying to say here is that this is the most common use of the word. This is a really important thing for people to learn, because we use it, everybody uses this, and it's so communicative. And I think it's really important that when we're teaching, we don't teach sort of esoteric, weird bits of language, but language that everybody can use. So I'm talking about useful language. So I've just got some examples here from the course book Empower. So things like giving compliments, different ways of giving compliments. Now, think of all those different students I was mentioning, my friends. This would be useful for all of them. Complimenting, saying positive things to people is something that we use all the time. And it could be Don complimenting the music, Christine complimenting her daughter's mother-in-law on her cooking. This is something very, very common for people. So I think it's a really valid thing to look at things when you're planning a lesson. Think, is this useful for everybody? Is it really weird and strange, or is it common and generic? And even at very, very low levels, we can find language that will suit everybody. Everybody will find something useful about it. I also think it's really useful that at the end of a lesson, students think about what was useful for them. Did they benefit from that lesson? Because they sometimes may not notice this. So I would use phrases like this and always have them at the end of the lesson. So encouraging students to say, where can they use this language in their context, where they would be using English, where is this useful? And why is it useful? Also to get them to think about, was it an enjoyable lesson? What was fun about it? What was interesting about it? And also a chance to give the teacher some feedback to say, could we have some more of this? I like feedback from my students because it helps me to prepare better lessons. And they can also think, the final thing there is, what can they be doing on their own? What could they be doing personally that's missing? For example, listening to a whole opera in Italian. I'm not going to do, watch a whole movie in English in my lesson, but students could be doing that. And somebody said they do this at the end of the course. Try doing it at the end of a lesson, each lesson, because I think by the end of the course, it's a bit late. You need that, that formative assessment so you can adjust your teaching as well. Now, we talked about adult learners being very motivated because they understand learning. But it can also be problematic, because I've had this feedback from students to me as a teacher, saying, well, why are you doing this? Why are we playing games? Why are we, why don't you tell us the grammar, etc.? Because it's not the way that they learned at school. And I think this is dangerous, because this is where you can lose students in terms of they can be disaffected or they can just leave. So we don't want that. So what I always do, I do this with teenagers as well, is discuss the methodology. So if we play a game, if we listen to a song, if we do something that's not directly from the book, I ask them, why do you think we did that? Why could this be useful for you? To get them to understand the value of what they do. And I think this is really important, because, some people say, oh, I don't like that teacher, she's not serious. And on the surface, I may not seem very serious, but there is a reason for everything I do. You know, I'm a very thoughtful person. I'm a very fun person. So my students must understand this. They must understand that there is a methodology underlying everything I do. One thing that I think is very interesting, and I mentioned this before, is asking students, what do they want from me? And this, I'll tell you a little story. I used to work in Greece. I worked in Greece for 10 years. And I had some students who were preparing for the proficiency exam, of the C2 exam. And they said to me, we don't think you correct us enough. And I said, okay, what do you want me to do? Tell me. And they said, we would like you to correct us when we're speaking 100% of the time. And so I started to do this, and they very quickly said, no, stop, it's too much. But it was interesting because they didn't feel I was correcting them enough. But when I did correct them all the time, it became a problem. So this was a good opportunity for a discussion about how much correction they wanted. And what we did in the end, it was quite fun. They had a sticky label that they put on their chest, and it said how many % of the time they wanted me to correct them when they were speaking. And in the end, we kind of agreed that they were happy. But of course, it depends on the activity. But this is just an example of listening to your students. They believed that I wasn't doing a good job. So we had to get into this situation where we were discussing this and where it was possible for them to really understand what was going on. I'm going to that works because I miss you. Hello. Okay, so one of the ways that you can personalize the learning experience for your students, oh, thank you. It's very nice to get compliments, is homework. Homework is the best opportunity for this very personalized experience. And you know, we don't have that much time in the classroom to deal with everybody's personal needs. So what they can do for homework is to access all this different stuff. So some of my students might be keen on passing an exam. Some of them want to do something very, very different. And I sort of checked in some of the talks during today, and you got lots and lots of fabulous advice about finding apps for your students. Oh my goodness, I was just very, very impressed with all these things that you can get. And if you just go to the app store on if you go get students to go onto their mobile phone, go onto the app store and just put in English language learning, boom, so much stuff pops up. And so they can find things that they may particularly be interested in. But don't stop there. There are lots of other things that might be of interest. So, for example, with John, the opera fan, he might want to go onto YouTube to watch an opera on YouTube, which you can do for free. A lot of my students, I put them in touch with things like YouTube for watching TV programs. Also, newspapers online. A lot of my adult students have particular interests. It could be sport, it could be international things that are happening. So I let them find out where they can find these. And it's a really good way of getting them to do study on their own. If they're interested, they will spend hours reading newspapers or listening to songs, etc. So there's a lot of stuff that they can do. And I mean, I love doing songs with students, that's for sure. So students can take control of this. They can really, you know, become their own tutors, that they can really help each other. But I still think it's worthwhile talking to them about it. So asking them what they're doing, making suggestions, being there for them, but they can choose what they do, when they do, how they do it, and also who they do it with. If you find at the beginning of your course you discuss what everyone's interested in, you might find that some of them are interested in the same things and they'd like to share that, either through tweets or through what they call video chats, that they can actually help each other. So I think that's a really helpful thing. It's not being lazy. It's allowing students to personalize that experience. There is work there because I think it's really important to be aware of what they're doing. What I try to do with adult learners, I also teach at university level, and I would once a week spend at least 15 minutes with each individual student. And you can do this now, you can do this online very easily, and just talk to them about what are you doing, what are you having problems with. So this is a really interesting and important thing for that experience. So you can spend less time worrying about teaching everybody simultaneously and give them a bit of that individual help, which we all like. So I've gone through this quite quickly, so I've caught up on timing. What is important is to understand these individual motivations, sorry, and to set targets. I want to be able to watch a movie in English without struggling too much. That's a good target for somebody who likes films. I'd like to be able to have a conversation, a simple conversation with a waiter in English to order my food. These are real world targets. It is important to personalize the learning. It's important to review the learning and say, what are we learning? How? And to make sure that homework is personalized. And don't forget this thing about methodology, because if students don't understand why you do things, you can lose them. But what's important about this is there's something missing on this slide. It's students who should be part of all this, not just us being in control as a teacher, but the students should be taking part in all this. And this is really very much linked with formative assessment, that you become, all of you are looking at what you're learning, how you're learning it, and moving forward to make it a much more positive experience. Okay, so this is my husband, and he thanks you. Spasibo to all of you. I'm just giving you my blog address, so you can take this. There's lots of ideas on my blog for, and the stuff that I have for teaching teenagers is also useful for teaching adults. And you can also contact me on my blog if you want to. So just put in the blog in your Google search or whatever equivalent you have. Do you have any questions? Thank you. My husband is very lucky to have me, I'm sure. Somebody doesn't believe me that that's my husband. Okay, I don't see any questions. So if I don't know why you can't see the address, I'll ask Julia to share it with you, but it is on the slide at the top. So I'll type it into, can I type it in? Yes. I'm typing it into chat box. There you go, it's in the chat box. Larissa, you cheeky person, asking me if George knows that he's married to me. Of course he knows.
Thank you, Olga.
You're
I'll
very
share the
welcome.
link as well. Yes. Spasibo, like your husband's.
He's very multilingual.
Yes, I see. Thank you. Thank you for this presentation. Thank you for your sense of humor. It's really great. Wonderful end of this day
Thank you.
4.
Thank you. And can I just wish everybody really well in Russia and everybody else who's taking part for the future. Who knows what's going to happen? It's going to be tough, but good luck in your endeavors and in your teaching experience. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye, Olha. Dear participants, I will share the recording certificates of attendance soon. Sometimes it takes some time because the lists are really, really huge. So please be patient. Thank you very much for participation. Thank you for attending this wonderful Cambridge week. 4 days, very, very fruitful week. Inspiring sessions from our presenters. Sorry for some technical issues with the first session today about flipped classroom and LOA. We will try to record this session and share the link with you a little bit later. Thank you all, and wish you good luck. And enjoy the rest of this day and the rest of this week. Get ready for the new academic year. Thank you. I was happy to see you all here today. Goodbye.